Captain Elya Nevers exhaled, shook out the bone-deep ache in his hands, and tilted a Sabre into the canyon. He was aware of the weight of his helmet, the sound of his breath, the way the spinal port at the base of his skull rubbed against the stim-chem injector. By now, he'd flown dozens of missions on as many worlds. Though the landscapes blurred together sometimes, he never got bored of being in the cockpit, as if it were possible for him to grow tired of being a Starfighter pilot in the Solaran Defense Forces. How could he? He was living his boyhood dream. A Kryl drone tore around the corner and beamed toward him. The drones, being both organism and ship in one, had faster reaction times than Solaran pilots, but even their ability to see was affected by the light of a star.
Lucky shot! At least one!
He led the final enemy, who had dropped in behind him, on a meandering chase through the canyon, bringing his Starfighter so low at one point, the Sabre's belly skimmed to the surface of a river cutting through the canyon floor.
Extreme canyon run? Extreme canyon run?
How could you tell?
You tried to do that loop maneuver again. I told you, it'll never work. It takes too long.
You don't know that for sure.
Have you managed it yet, Fancy Pants?
It's just a matter of time.
She used his call sign like a prod. Most of the time, he didn't think twice about the nickname. His style and record-breaking training runs earned him in flight school, but when she used it like that, it rankled. He didn't use her call sign, since Raptor was too cool to be a taunt. It was a play on the captain's family name and matched tattoos of the mythological Earthhawks adorning the inside of her forearms.
Speaking of time, you spend an awful lot of years on that sim, especially with this being our first deployment to the Outer Rim. Why don't you live a little? Come hang out with us. See the galaxy.
I'm busy training. Besides, there's nothing to see right now. The evac is going smoothly.
We'll see action soon enough. What are you trying to prove?
I want to be ready.
Listen, Nevers, I'm not harassing for fun. It's my job to make us a cohesive unit, and I can't do that when you won't act like part of the team. This isn't just about being a good pilot, it's about knowing we have each other's backs.
Have I ever given you a reason not to trust me?
No. You always take your assignment without whining. You never leave your wingman. You're never late to drill. But you aren't always present. Captain Elya Nevers is there! Yes, sir! Reporting for duty, sir! Thing is, the squad needs Elya the friend, too. The guy who's good with bot mods and completely insufferable after he beats you at a game of Alyak.
Hey! I'm not insufferable!
I'm just giving you a hard time, Nevers. I want you to be you. Come on, what'd you say? I'll even offer to relieve you of a month's pay in a game of handles.
Oh, how generous of you.
He'd always liked Osprey's competitive streak. Something in him loved to rise to the challenge. At the same time, he didn't like the censure and hated knowing deep down that she was right. He wanted to be part of the team. He'd always wanted to be part of something where he felt connected to other people, but he didn't always know how. Elya's family relocated to a settler's moon after the Kryl invasion of Uzo 6 and spent the next several years skirting the edges of abject poverty. There had been months-long stretches where it was a good day if he got 2 meals and a roof over his head. Not having a holovid of the legendary pilot who was a hero, or a bedroom to put it in, was something his brother Roger would have whined and moaned endlessly about, not Elya. Instead of complaining, he invested every ounce of energy into getting off that rock and learning to fly Sabres. One thing the refugee colony did have was a library. He was able to spend as much time as he wanted watching holovids of Rui Diaz's Kryl encounters. That footage was the main reason he decided to join up. At least as an Imperial pilot, he could count on being able to send a few credits home each month. That was more than most could say.
Look, I appreciate the pep talk, but I need to take care of a few things. I'm good doing what I'm doing, all right? What's so funny?
You actually used Captain Rui Diaz as your avatar?
Mind your own business, Raptor.
Hey, I didn't mean it like that. Rui Diaz was a war hero and an incredibly talented pilot. Wish you were still around to teach us a few tricks. I bet you were the kind of kid that had a holovid of him in your bedroom, didn't you?
Nah, I would have had one if I'd learned about Rui Diaz back on Uzo 6. Once we became refugees, we couldn't afford luxuries like having our own bedrooms.
You know, now that I think about it, you do kind of fly like him.
I guess that's what happens when you study countless hours of footage in the library archives.
That's some way for a kid to entertain himself. When I was a kid, I got so sick of my dad and granddad telling war stories and talking about how being in the fleet was such a noble calling that watching old footage was the last thing I wanted to do.
So why'd you join up?
Didn't want to let him down, I guess. Plus, I'm good at it. I can outfly your butt any day.
That's the best you got? And you became flight lead how?
One nice thing about working for the Solarian Empire, the money always shows up on time.
It felt natural to have Hedgebot resting its weight there. The bot was clever and had no trouble balancing. The little hedgehog-shaped machine, finely bristled, with sensing mechanisms running along its back and feet, and a whole lot of personality crammed into the color-shifting lights in its belly. It had been given to Elya as a gift when he first became a refugee, long before he joined the Solarian Defense Forces. He had been ordered to make several modifications to the bot's programming and mechanics to meet fleet requirements, but he'd been allowed to keep it, and for that he was grateful.
Hey, wait up! I'm not done with you yet. Look, the last thing I want to do is order you to wreck.
You can't order me to spend my free time with anyone I don't want to. I know we both wanted to see more action on this mission, but since we haven't seen any Kryl yet, I don't see why spending a little extra time in the sim is a bad thing.
All the more reason for you to be well-rested and ready to go.
To be fair, I was there yesterday. We played Alyak, remember?
Yeah, you showed up. But like I said, you weren't really there, you know? The rest of the squad thinks you're kind of standoffish.
Look, Captain, I like playing Alyak, but I don't like spending the whole day killing time. Plus, I'm not much of a drinker. And you know, most of those guys, if they don't have to fly that day, they don't want to be walking straight either.
Yora rarely drinks, and yet she always hangs out with us. You could do the same.
I maintain my Starfighter and keep my blaster clean. I help the others repair their bots when they can't do it themselves.
I'm never late to a briefing. I'm a good pilot. What more do you want from me?
You don't have to like it, but you could at least make an effort.
Of all the other pilots, it was Osprey he knew best. She hated broccoli and liked to work out first thing in the morning. She sweated over other people's approval, and it was no wonder, since her father had packed her off to a military academy without so much as a warning when she was still a girl. It taught her to adapt quickly to awkward social situations and strive to fit in. She was also a damn good pilot. In flight training, which they had gone through together, they'd always been neck and neck in the rankings, with instructors pitting them against each other in maneuvering and shooting drills. This forced competition had one huge advantage. It made both of them better pilots. When they began to fly real Sabres in mock combat missions, they separated from the pack. This shared history was probably the reason why Osprey had come to talk to him. No one else would have bothered. He grudgingly gave her credit for caring at least that much.
Training is important. Believe me, I love how hard you work. I always have. No one pushes me to be a better pilot than you do. But you've got to make an effort to be friends with the rest of the squad, and the time for that is at the wreck. The others have to know they can count on you when it matters most. If you don't build that connection with them now, when it comes to a firefight, they're not going to know that you have their back either.
We're not out here evacuating a RimWorld colony to make pals. We're here to kill Kryl.
You're not a refugee anymore. All I'm saying is, you don't have to do this alone.
It's not about that. I just want to be ready when the time comes.
This is a book. This is an ebook. This is an audiobook. This is the future. Watch the world's first video book, Starfighter Down by M.G. Herron, on plotc.tv or by downloading the Plotc app on your device or smart TV. Welcome to the future.
Elya made his way through the crowded library, past the rows of immersion holodecks. Most people seemed to be in good spirits. Perhaps like him, they were pleased they'd been sent out here to the galaxy's edge to evacuate a colony because it meant a chance to see action. After a 12-year stalemate in the war against the Kryl, most soldiers, especially Sabre pilots, were itching for a fight. Elya reached a relatively private row of functional monitors with screens much larger than the tab in his pocket. When his turn finally came, he logged onto his bank account, put half the money in savings, set aside some for spending, and sent the remainder home to his mom. It wasn't much, but the money assuaged a little of his guilt at leaving them in a place with little chance for employment and ration cards that barely put food on the table. He tabbed over to a news aggregator and checked if there was any word from the system where his family was located. After scouring the feeds for a while, he blew out his breath. No news was good news. Stretching, he relinquished the seat to the next person in line and headed for the exit.
What's that, bud? You want to fly another sim? Great idea. Let's swing by the mess for a bite to eat and a charge, and then we can get back to work.
Thankfully, Osprey was nowhere to be found, and no one else took it upon themselves to yank his chain about his social ineptitude. Admiral Kira Miyaru gazed through the main window of the bridge over the fleet of Mammoth-class long haulers. All around her, the crew worked, monitoring systems on dozens of bright holoscreens, relaying updates on the status of the evacuation, and watching surrounding space in all directions for any sign of Kryl. Everything was going according to plan, which was exactly what had her worried. Even with a whole wing of Starfighters on patrol, 24 civilian transports were a lot for one destroyer, and a handful of support craft to protect. And that wasn't accounting for what was happening on the ground. Robichar was one of a dozen expansion colonies authorized since the end of the Kryl War. Irritatingly, the feeling among the colonization board continued to be that Solaran space was secure enough to continue approving new charters even after verified reports of a rogue Kryl hive had precipitated the prudent evacuation of this one. For the past year, the civilian population had been reporting Kryl attacks with alarming frequency. The sudden movement of the hive had finally forced the board to pull out of Robichar.
If the Empire isn't growing, it's dying. We have a moral imperative to expand. The Emperor refuses to give the Kryl the satisfaction.
The Emperor indeed. The Emperor and his harem were no doubt sequestered in his pleasure palace orbiting Ariadne, blissfully unaware of the Kryl's latest movements. Kira would be shocked to learn he was even aware of the so-called moral imperative espoused by the flunkies operating in his absence. So here she was, following orders to evacuate Robichar with minimal support. With an effort of will forged in the fire of 12 years of calculated patience, Kira forced her fury back down. She was here to do a job, and no amount of bellyaching over Imperial policy would save the people of Robichar from being ravaged by a Kryl hive. Only soldiers could do that. Her soldiers.
Admiral, the shuttles have reached escape velocity.
The resonant voice seemed to come from every speaker, from the room itself. The voice belonged to the ship, or rather to Harmony, a branch of the artificial intelligence program that piloted every starship in the Solaran Defense Forces. The program was installed in the neural network of the ship itself and controlled by a nanochip embedded in Kira's neck, right above her spinal cord.
Show me.
Visual on shuttles in 3, 2.
At a capacity of 100,000 persons each, the mammoths could hold 2.4 million people, enough to fit the entire population of Robichar, with plenty of room to spare.
Any sign of the Kryl?
No, Admiral. The Overmind is still working her way through the asteroid field.
And if she changes her mind, how long would it take her to reach us?
It had been over a decade since any Solaran Defense Forces engaged a Kryl hive directly. Her people needed to understand who their enemy really was, not merely the thousands of Kryl spawn and their venomous talons, but the consciousness that controlled them. This knowledge was imperative to winning any battle they found themselves in.
If the hive continues its normal feeding patterns, there is an 83% probability they will arrive in Sis 28 hours from now.
Thank you, Harmony.
Casey scrolled through the library terminal, opening files at random and hoping she might get lucky. You'd think that with access to centuries worth of leadership content, at least one book or holovid would be able to reveal the key to getting through to that idiot, so intent on staying walled off from anyone at anything except a training sim, but no such luck. The next time she looked up, the terminal Nevers had been using was occupied by someone else. Casey logged out and hurried to the doorway in time to see him turn down the next corridor and out of sight. That damnably cute little robot of his pulsed blue as if it moved on an invisible leash. She'd never seen a bot more devoted, and while usually this fact made Nevers seem endearing, today it made him seem like an aloof jerk. She fumed at his stubbornness the whole walk back to the wreck. When Lieutenant Colonel Walcott first told her she'd made flight lead, the news had filled her with pride and excitement. She knew it was a big responsibility, but it was also her first step on the leadership path, the path she'd been groomed her whole life to take. She just never realized the most difficult part of the job would be dealing with other people. Casey was usually great with people. The portal to the wreck, where the rest of her flight was killing time, irised open as she approached, belching out a cloud of acrid tobacco smoke. She caught a whiff of ganja mixed into the scent and knew that Lieutenant Inovesh Park must have been digging into his stash again. Cannabis was sold at most base exchanges right alongside the loose tobacco and cigars. Casey felt a hankering to light up a smoke of her own right now, but resisted the urge while she hunted Park out of the crowd. True to form, he was puffing on a rollie as he slouched in a chair at a card table in the corner.
Oh, no fair, Nab. I had you cornered.
So you've been having fun?
Told him we were still technically on call, but this flyboy didn't listen.
Does he ever?
Always the jokester, Nab had earned his call sign when he went streaking through the mess hall and ended up getting locked outside on a cold winter morning, naked as a baby, hence Nab.
You were checking in on Nevers, weren't you? Yeah, I can see it in your face.
Why are you always after him like that?
Because I need him to know we've got each other's backs.
Of course he knows. I think it just bothers you that he's happy spending time alone. What was he doing, running Sims?
He's always training. Kid doesn't know how to relax.
It's more than that. He barely spends any rec time with us.
Don't you think we spend enough time together, Raptor? We train together, we sleep in the same room, we spend hours running drills. We practically live in each other's heads. He probably just needs a break.
That idea was foreign to her. Being around her friends on her off hours was revivifying. She took energy from a gathering like this, where they were sitting with each other, playing cards and shooting the breeze. It never even occurred to her that somebody could enjoy spending time alone, running extra sims by himself. How was that fun? But then, Nevers had always been internally motivated. Even when they were in pilot training together, he only sought help when he needed a second in the cockpit. Casey, on the other hand, had picked out individual people who excelled in one thing, navigation, or the physics of flying in zero grav, and leaned on them from the get-go, absorbing their knowledge like a sponge. Nevers had been content to figure out things on his own.
All Starfighters report to battle stations. Repeat, all Starfighters report to battle stations immediately.
Let's kick off this week's meeting. Everyone bring their copy.
I have the ebook.
I'm listening to the audiobook.
I'm watching the video book.
We agreed. No adaptations.
It is the book. For a sci-fi club, you all seem to be living in the past.
Awesome!
Watch the world's first video book, Starfighter Down by MG Herron, on plotc.tv. Welcome to the future.
The group docked with the Mammoth fleet and began to unload passengers. Another 100,000 people to safety. By her estimation, it would take another 12 hours to evacuate the rest of the population. She recognized the sound of Colonel Volk's measured steps before she saw him.
Morning, Colonel.
Good morning, sir.
Up late?
No later than usual, so you know I never sleep well during an operation. Any news from our automaton friends?
Though it wasn't Kira's favorite description, the Kryl were often referred to as automatons because they seemed to mindlessly obey the overmind they served, often without thought or care for their own personal safety.
Nothing significant. Still eating their way through the asteroid field. They've raided 3 different planetary bodies for ice by our reports, but none we need to be worried about.
You still think it's this colony they're after?
I have no reason to think it's not this colony. Of course, I'd be happy to be proven wrong.
You and me both, sir. And yet, as you have pointed out countless times, this is the only planet in this volume of space that makes a viable target.
This was a familiar debate, one they had rehearsed many times on the journey to Robichar. Neither of them had been able to come up with a better explanation for the Krill's movements. 12 years, they kept to their own territory. Why were they on the move now? No one knew what the Kryl were looking for when they invaded a planet, but no one wanted to be there when it happened. They had retreated after the Queen Mother's hive was assaulted and roughly a quarter of her species annihilated by antimatter bombs. They hadn't disappeared. The Kryl species still thrived, and Kira didn't think their memories were so short.
The evacuation is proceeding on schedule. We're up to the equivalent of 18 craft at capacity.
I heard there were some holdouts among the population planetside.
There are always a few.
Do we know why?
I've had some people ask around on the Mammoths. Rumor is it's mostly religious fanatics.
The spirit of old Earth won't save you from being eviscerated by a Kryl Talon.
He lost a brother in the war. She had lost someone she'd loved too. She understood how long grief could burn, how a wound caused by the loss of a loved one never truly healed. Grief never vanishes. You just learn how to live with it.
How's the crew holding up?
A bit too eager, sir. Most of these pilots have never seen real action, except the few squads who put down the rebellion on Ezekiel. And that wasn't much of a fight.
Our Starfighter pilots are the best in the galaxy.
That's not under dispute. We do train brilliant pilots, but that doesn't mean they can earn their wings by flying sim programs and peaceful recon missions. Admiral, do you still think the Kryl are up to something?
I always think they're up to something. The question is, what?
You don't think, after 12 years, this movement is merely necessary survival?
I think we should wait and see what happens.
Yet you suspect something.
Don't you?
After a decade plus of keeping to themselves, a rearguard hive detaches itself from the bulk of the Horde and begins to raid planets out on the edge of the galaxy. If it was a human fleet, I'd say there were 2 options. 1, they're pirates, deserters. They left the Horde to rape and pillage.
And 2?
This rogue overmind is headed here on orders from the Queen Mother herself. What I don't understand is, what are they after?
That's always been the question ever since we made first contact. What are the Kryl after?
A warlike species who devours all they touch. The obvious answer is resources. Radioactive isotopes, metals, water.
But why this hive? Why would the Queen Mother not move from the center like she always has before?
Maybe it's a hive of rebels.
Let's hope we're so lucky. I don't want to be right about this, but I've got a feeling something else is going on. We may have cowed the Kryl and forced them to retreat. But the Empire's grown soft. We've continued to expand, more colonies to protect, our forces spread too thin.
Maybe the Kryl are just annoyed we're expanding and they're not.
It was stupid. I told the Executive Council we needed to be cautious.
They waited 7 years before they started writing new charters.
They should have waited longer. Do you think the Queen Mother thinks 7 years, or 12 or 20 is a long time? If you believe our xenobiologists, the Mother Queen has lived for over 2,000 years. Each Queen Mother that rises to prominence lasts a couple millennia. Report.
Kryl ship spotted in system, Admiral.
Where?
On the far side of the moon.
The whole hive? How'd they get here so blasted fast?
It's not the whole hive. It seems to be some kind of advanced scouting party. 60 to 80 fighter drones and 1 Mantis-class refueler.
Their orders were to evacuate the planet and get out of the system before the Overmind realized what was happening. So much for that idea.
Time to give your fresh-faced young Starfighters a taste of Kryl blood. Give the order, Colonel.
Sound the alarm! Activate battle shields! Charge the fore and aft laser defense areas! Scramble all available Starfighter squadrons! I want those drones to be sucking vacuum before they catch sight of a single mammoth. Patch squadron commanders through to the bridge so I can brief them on their way out. Let's go, let's go, let's go!
No matter how old she got, the rush of battle still made her feel more alive than anything ever had.
It's going to be okay.
No, it's not. They cut him out. My favorite character.
I know. It's very sad.
No, it's a tragedy. Are you sure you're at the right movie, buddy? See? Nobody even gets my cosplay. Why? How could you?
Ready to experience the future? Watch the world's first ever video books, adapted precisely on plotc.tv, or check your app store.
Elya's sharp eyes picked out the flag for the Furies, a winged sword over the number 137. These were the best Starfighter models the fleet had ever designed, equally capable of flying in vacuum as in air, with adjustable fins and wing configurations to handle any kind of atmosphere. Had been pre-flighted, so it took the whole squad less than 90 seconds to complete their checklist and get situated on comms. Elya had rehearsed this routine until his eyes swam, but with his nerves shooting off like jury-rigged fireworks, he'd never been so glad for the muscle memory his relentless training had instilled in him.
Furies 1-8, check.
2, 3,
4.
Osprey relayed their readiness to the squadron commander, Lieutenant Colonel Walcott, a somber veteran pilot and steady leader who had fought in the Kryl War and was never caught smiling. Though he performed these maneuvers countless times, only a handful of those had been in actual combat situations.
I know, little buddy. I've got butterflies in my stomach, too. I don't know. I've only ever seen pictures of butterflies. It's just something my grandmother used to say when she got nervous.
Edgebot had no trouble withstanding the G-forces that Elya's own body underwent during the course of a hard flight. The bot was also helpful to have with him. as it was designed to warn planetary colonists of incoming danger in hostile environments. It made him a particularly useful flying partner.
Captain Nevers, is that your bot flashing like a lighthouse? Knock it off. We don't want to broadcast our position to the Kryl.
Yes, sir. I know, you didn't mean anything by it.
All right, squad. Flight paths have been relayed to your nav. Our job is to protect the mammoths while other squads engage the Kryl drones directly. We'll act as support and swap in if needed. I don't want to hear it. You have your orders.
A yellow path appeared, superimposed on the transparent aluminite shell of the cockpit. They were soaring toward the fleet of 24 long haulers, orbiting above and behind the fleet in the controlled sequence mapped out by the AI. Although his fingers were itching for action, Elya didn't mind taking a defensive position as much as the others seemed to. Being assigned to protect the refugees lit a deep, warm glow of pride in his chest. Every person he served with had endured some kind of personal loss during the Kryl War. But as far as he knew, among his immediate comrades, only Elya had been a refugee himself. These enormous transport vessels were heavy on armor and defensive turrets, but severely lacking on maneuverability. It was no wonder the Admiral had dispatched her Starfighters to defend these fat-sitting ducks, loaded as they were with nearly 1 million civilians. Elya tuned into the flight frequency. He was dropped into the middle of a conversation between Park and Osprey.
Do you think they've engaged by now? Black Lightning and Viking squads went around the moon to flank them.
Kryl drones positively identified. Permission to engage.
Granted.
His unblinking eyes fixed on the little dots representing the offensive squadrons on his LiDAR. The speed of their orbital patrol increased as the pilot's trigger fingers sought an outlet for their aggression. But they encountered no threats. They couldn't even see the exchange since the moon blocked their view of the Kryl. Elya's wing had been involved a couple years back in putting down the Ezekiel Rebellion. The class that Elya and Osprey belonged to had graduated after that incident, so at least half the pilots he flew with now had never seen a Kryl drone, except for those preserved in military labs and archival footage, himself included. If he didn't get to see one today, who knew when he'd get the chance again?
This is Viking Squad. We have a man down.
Elya's whole body tensed. The action remained on the opposite side of the moon. He could sense its closeness.
Black Lightning, engage!
Black Lightning had flown the opposite way around the moon, and now the Kryl force would be caught between the two squads.
Stick to your flight pattern.
Yura, ahead of him, had also veered and quickly corrected.
Back on track.
Same here.
He hoped the others didn't hear his voice shaking. Maybe Osprey had been right. Maybe he shouldn't have been training so hard today. By this point, he was either ready or he wasn't. There was nothing he could do to prepare further, no matter how much he wished it were otherwise. He tried to ignore the panicked shouting now coming over the command comms from the battle. The screams and curses coming from the two squads dried his mouth out and set his heart to racing. Adrenaline rushed through his veins. This was something no sim could train you for.
Whoa! Did you see that?
Elya's attention snapped back to his comms. He thought that was the voice of the leader of Black Lightning.
Black Lightning, report! We just lost a group of Kryl drones!
Do you have visual?
Negative, Colonel! A whole pack of them just up and vanished!
Where the void did they go?
Whoa! Coming in hot!
The comm system crackled. Some kind of electromagnetic interference disturbed the channel. Colonel Volk's voice came back a beat after the interference subsided.
On course. Stick to the plan.
We see another pack up ahead!
Here it comes. It's the best part.
I don't get it. Was that your favorite part?
No, they changed it. This wasn't in the book. I can't do this.
Thank you. Let's go test and repack the hoses again.
Yes, please. It's 102 degrees outside. If something's gonna make me angry, it might as well be worth it.
Ready to experience the future? Watch the world's first ever video books, adapted precisely on plotc.tv, or check your app store.
Permission to engage. I've got eyes on 2.
Fire at will.
How the devil did they get here so fast? Weren't they just on the other side of the moon?
Got one! No way you're getting credit for that.
I took out the shields!
My shot destroyed it!
Would you two quit bickering?
Torpedoes at 3 o'clock!
One down, 2 left.
I'm on it!
Right behind you, Raptor.
Fancy pants! With me on the other one!
Come on.
As he came within range to shoot it down, another Kryl drone came up from below the mammoth and twisted into his path. His shots bounced harmlessly off the drone. Starfighter around and angled back to chase after the drone that had foiled his attempts to take the torpedo down.
Fancy pants. Do not pursue. I repeat, do not pursue.
I can catch him.
By the spirit of old Earth, you're gonna get us in trouble, Nevers!
I'm not losing him.
Besides, he thought, isn't this what I've been training for? It quickly became clear that the Kryl drone was merely playing with him. It didn't seem intent on launching another torpedo attack at all.
What's your endgame?
The drone was quick. Park and York took out the other 2 remaining drones, leaving only the one Elya was after. And though this time Elya gained on the lone drone, he got the sense that the ship seemed to be enjoying the chase as much as he was. It flew better than any of the other drones had.
You're gonna be in deep for this, Fancy Pants. You should have stayed with the rest of the squad.
I'm not letting him get away.
But he heard the undertone of her criticism. You're not being a team player.
2-on-1. We've got it outnumbered.
Kryl didn't think like people. They were controlled by a remote overmind that gave them abilities that human pilots could never hope to match. It was one of the reasons Starfighters weren't piloted remotely. Starfighters needed every edge they could get. Elya managed to close the distance between himself and the drone to within half a kilometer. At this point, the Kryl drone flipped back around and arced up overhead in a loop. The same maneuver that Osprey had cautioned him against earlier that day.
Impossible.
Nevers, pull up! Pull up! Nevers, are you okay?
Watch the world's first video book, Starfighter Down by MG Herron, on plotc.tv. Welcome to the future.